Howdy Crystal Conclave, my name's NESHY and I'm going to teach you how to play Crystal Beast, specifically Conclave Control, in both the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG and Master Duel. Why listen to me? Cause I came up with Conclave Control. I know this deck like the back of my hand. I've competitive success with it in Duel Links, the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG, and Master Duel, and I'm going to share all the things that I've learned from it playing this deck for so long. In this video, I'll explain my mentality and thought process when I'm playing Conclave Control, in the hopes that you'll appreciate this deck just a little bit more. Let's do this. So to kick things off, let's discuss the end goal. How do you win with this deck? Well, believe it or not, if you can accomplish this board, you win the game. Let me show you how. First, you'll activate Golden Rule, which crystallizes 2 Crystal Beasts from the deck, and special summons Ruby from the hand. Ruby on special summon can special summon all of your Crystal Beasts from the back row, a soul charge-like effect. Pegasus can trigger, crystallizing another Crystal Beast, but that's all she wrote. This is 8100 damage, thanks to the 18, 3000, 300, and 3000. It's just absurd that we have a 3000 attack Crystal Beast. Keep in mind this combo can also be done while this is a Zenith instead of a Sapphire Pegasus, or Ruby's in the graveyard, as thankfully Golden Rule can special summon from the graveyard as well. Let me show you another method of how we can OTK that's actually Master Duel friendly, because we don't have Golden Rule in there yet, hopefully soon. Alright, once you've established this board as well, you've also won the game, thanks to Awakening of the Crystal Ultimates and Rainbow Dragon in hand. This is a hard garnet, but you add it along the way with Zenith's effect in the back row. So you want to enter the battle phase and activate Awakening of the Crystal Ultimates, revealing an ultimate crystal in our hand in order to special summon Ruby from the deck. And then Ruby's going to activate. Since we're in the battle phase, our opponent can't use Effect Veiler in order to stop this Ruby. And we're going to special summon our Crystal Beasts, and you know the drill. Going for game right here and then. Take this board for instance, where you have Sapphire Pegasus in the Monster Zone, 2 Zeniths as crystals, Rainbow Bridge of the Heart, the best card in the deck in the back row, and Rainbow Dragon in your hand. I see a lot of players activate Rainbow Bridge of the Heart, destroying a back row Crystal Beast in order to search for that Awakening. And then what'll happen is your Awakening, special summon Ruby, Ruby effect, special summon a Zenith, and all of a sudden you don't have game here. Instead of popping the Crystal Beasts on the field, you want to actually pop the Crystal Beast monsters more so in order to gain card advantage. Search for Awakening. Since the Crystal Beasts, when they're destroyed, they can go to the back row instead of being sent to the graveyard. Battle phase, Awakening, special summon Ruby, and this is game right here. So the entire point of the deck is to snowball resources over time by crystallizing your Crystal Beasts by destroying them with Rainbow Bridge of the Heart, or your opponent destroying them, and then you're going to gain all that advantage back in a big Ruby rampage. Now that you know how to end the game with Crystal Beasts OTKing on an empty board, let's figure out how to get there in the first place. Your 3 main methods of spot removal are going to come in the form of a monster, a spell, and a trap. Lightning Chidori can be made with any 2 level 4 monsters that are wind, and Sapphire Pegasus can fill this requirement by itself. You see, Sapphire Pegasus on normal summon can crystallize any Crystal Beast from the deck. That's going to be Zenith in this case. Zenith, while it's a spell card, can banish itself to add Rainbow Dragon from deck to hand, and special summon another beast from the deck, which can just be another Crystal Beast Sapphire Pegasus. Now you have 2 winds on the field. This can go right into Lightning Chidori, which can put a set card your opponent controls on the bottom of the deck, and detach to put an opponent's face-up card to the top of the deck. So now you see how impactful Lightning Chidori is in dealing with threats on the field. Rainbow Bridge of the Heart, on the other hand, can bounce opponent's cards, return opponent's cards to the hand if a Crystal Beast is placed in the spell and trap zone. That includes destroying it by its own effect. And then Crystal Conclave, the first effect lets you special summon a Crystal Beast from your deck on destruction of another Crystal Beast monster. And the second effect, you can target 1 Crystal Beast card on the field, including one in the monster zone or in the spell and trap zone, and another card on the field and return them to hand. You can see how valuable this is during your opponent's turn. Chidori and Heart are removal during your turn, and Conclave is spot removal during your opponent's turn. Use these to clear threats on the board in order to go for the OTK. The question is though, The modern game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is ruthless. How are we even going to survive long enough to be able to clear threats from the field and meticulously assemble a board that would go for game? Well, that's where these cards come in. Another monster, another spell, and another trap. Baguska, while he's in defense mode, switches all monsters on the field to defense mode, and the activated effects of monsters in defense position are negated. Think of it like a walking skill train for everything except for link monsters, because they can't go to defense. Necrovalley says cards in the graveyard must stay in the graveyard, essentially. A boon to every graveyard-reliant strategy, which, thanks to Crystal Beast's unique crystallization mechanic, they don't really have a whole lot of cards that interact with the graveyard. They can totally play without it. And Crystal Miracle is this counter trap. By destroying a Crystal Beast card on the field, could be in the monster zone or in the back row, you can negate a spell, trap, or monster effect. And as a neat effect in the graveyard to crystallize another Crystal Beast. If we're playing against meta, there are times where our deck needs to lower the ceiling in order to survive. The meta is ruthless. The meta is unforgiving. It is wise to equip ourselves with these cards in order to compete. These two are almost essential in order to compete, and this protects both of these two. And that's how you survive the game in the early game. Now you have a general flow of how a game of Conclave Control is to be played. Survive the game, remove threats from the game, and go for game. That's going to be how you're going to be playing Conclave Control. Now, what do you even do with a turn 1 hand though to even start on this? Let's keep working backwards and solve that, and I'll show you the personal flowchart I use for Conclave Control. Step 1, in any hand, find Pegasus. Step 2, find Rainbow Drag. Step 3, find Heart. Step 4, assemble your end board using any of these pieces. Now, I'm going to show you how to do this with a standard hand, or a not so standard hand. Let's demonstrate how this flowchart works. I'm going to draw a 5-card hand, 3 Rainbow Bridge, and then 2 cards that don't matter. We're going to use Rainbow Bridge to search first for access to Sapphire Pegasus. This is going to come in the form of Crystal Bond. Now, we'll search for said Pegasus, add it from deck to hand, and then Bond lets us crystallize another Crystal Beast from the deck. Next, we'll activate Zenith's effect, special summon another Crystal Beast from the deck, and add Rainbow Dragon. Next, we'll use this, now that we've searched Rainbow Dragon, to search for Awakening, because now we need to search Heart. Now that we've done step 1, find Pegasus, step 2, find Rainbow Dragon, now we need to find Heart. Awakening, reveal Rainbow Dragon, search for that Rainbow Bridge of the Heart. This is the most important card. This does everything for the deck. Quite literally the heart of the deck. If you don't have this, it becomes difficult to win. That's how important this card is. Next, we're going to activate Rainbow Bridge of the Heart, and we're going to assemble our end board from here. We can normal summon a Crystal Beast, we'll crystallize another Zenith from the deck, and then we can use Heart Effect, search for a Crystal Miracle, and we could use our final Rainbow Bridge to search for a Crystal Conclave. And here we go. This is just a bread and butter setup for Conclave Control. Miracle, Conclave, Heart, other cards like hand traps or non-engine in general. This is going to be your kind of ideal end board without Baguska or Necrovalley. Now that's what's going to get more impactful. But that first example is when you're going blind. If you're going against a deck that hard loses to Necrovalley and that's your win condition, you're going to actually want to change the game plan up just a little bit. Once you reach this point, you want to Awakening, reveal Rainbow Dragon, and dump Rainbow Bridge of Salvation. Rainbow Bridge of Salvation, once in the graveyard, has a very powerful effect. Banish itself to add a Crystal Beast from deck to hand and any field spell, literally any field spell that we want, is going to be the Necrovalley, since Crystal Beast can play pretty uniquely under Necrovalley. Now we're going to normal summon a Sapphire Pegasus, crystallize a Zenith from the deck, and then we'll just use this bridge to search for a Crystal Miracle to insulate our Necrovalley. Now, the issue with this play is our follow-up is a lot worse, because we don't have Rainbow Bridge of the Heart, so we're not guaranteed game next turn, but we have a lot more staying power thanks to this Necrovalley. And we have another Pegasus in hand for follow-up. Alright, let's take some more examples. So what if you have Sapphire Pegasus plus Crystal Conclave? Do you normal summon the Pegasus and then use its effect to crystallize another Sapphire Pegasus from the deck so that you can Conclave return it to the hand for follow-up on the next turn? Or alternatively, do you normal summon Sapphire Pegasus, use its effect to crystallize Zenith, Zenith effect, special summon another Sapphire Pegasus, add Rainbow Dragon, and then overlay for Baguska? This is what's tricky because now the Conclave doesn't have a target to bounce on your field in order to get its bounce effect. But this board is more powerful than the last board, and here's why. Floodgates are going to be the most impactful defensive card, and when you're playing on less, you need this to act as more, if that makes sense. You have the Conclave for follow-up next turn, and I personally wouldn't set this right here, because you may want to have the option of next turn moving into attack mode, attacking, and then overlaying for AA Zeus, right? A very powerful play, and then go ahead and wipe the field. And Baguska will just give you more chances to see that Rainbow Bridge of the Heart. So that's if we have just Pegasus plus Conclave. But the story changes if we instead have Goods plus Conclave. Here's how. Activate Goods, send a Flowchart from deck to grave, Salvation effect, banish itself, add a Crystal Beast and a field spell from deck to hand. Now we'll activate Necrovalley, cards in the graveyard must stay in the graveyard, normal summon Pegasus, one of the strongest normal summons in the game, crystallize another Pegasus, set Conclave face down. Now, during your opponent's turn, you have a Floodgate preventing them from playing the game, and then Conclave can go ahead and return an opponent's card and this Crystal Beast back to your hand so that you have a follow-up rank 4 you could possibly do. So ideally you have Goods plus Conclave or Bond plus Conclave. Bond letting you basically do Baguska and have a follow-up on the same turn. So Bond's going to allow you to crystallize a Zenith from the deck, add Sapphire Pegasus, Pegasus effect, place another Crystal Beast, Zenith effect, special summon Pegasus, and add Rainbow Dragon. And now we can safely overlay for Baguska and have a set Conclave. So now we have follow-up and a Floodgate. That's kind of the point of the deck, is have a Floodgate plus a follow-up. That's what you would like to build turn 1 ideally. Now let's get into some tips and tricks. When you're breaking a board going second, especially against back row decks, see how far one Sapphire Pegasus can take you. Since Pegasus is a 1-card rank 4, use Pegasus effect. For Zenith, Zenith effect, special summon another Crystal Beast, add Rainbow Dragon. You have the potential to make all kinds of rank 4 Xyz. You can use Lightning Chidori for spot removal. Or you can make an untargetable or indestructible Baguska, Assault Mode Baguska, to be able to attack, and then main phase 2, make Zeus to clear the field. And by then, they can destroy and target the Zeus, but it'd be too late. Or, one of my favorite plays, be able to overlay into Zodiac Chocodine, which requires 2 level 4s, and then overlay that into Zodiac Borbo. It'll have 0 attack, but it can attack your opponent directly, which can get over stuff like Red Eye's Dark Dragoon, Mech Knight Crusadia Avermax, and then main phase 2 overlay for 4 material Zeus to be able to wipe the board up to twice. Or more times if your opponent destroys other cards on the field and triggers Zeus's first effect, but we don't talk about that. Let's get into the next tip. Use Miracle or Rainbow Bridge of the Heart to trigger the first effect of Conclave by destroying a Crystal Beast monster. You can then use Conclave to special summon Zenith, the biggest body of the bunch, or Ruby, to bring back the beast that Miracle just destroyed. Want to remove one of your opponent's cards from the field without committing a monster? Use Crystal Bond to trigger Rainbow Bridge of the Heart. You'll add a Crystal Beast from hand and crystallize one from deck, triggering the effect to bounce an opponent's card before you even have a monster out on the field. Here's another heads up one. Zenith and Conclave create an awesome combo to attack multiple times in one turn. After attacking with Zenith once, use Conclave to return it to the hand, you can bounce an opponent's card, attack with another Crystal Beast, and special summon Zenith from the hand again to perform the final blow. That's going to be it for the tips. Let's get into the core cards of the deck and do a little deck building section. This is the deck list I'm currently playing. Here's a graphic on the screen that I got first place with in a recent Win-A-Box tournament. If you need help identifying cards, I'll put a deck list in the description, and feel free to ask below about certain cards. But I've divided these into different card categories. You have your starter cards, extenders, you have your defensive cards, and you have your bricks. It's as simple as it gets, but let me boil it down even more to just the core cards, because a lot of these can be replaced with whatever. And boom, I would say these are all of the core cards that make the cut. A Necrovalley, I would say, is a core card thanks to Salvation. The next recommends I would have are a field spell, because it is nice having a searchable second option for Salvation. Other options instead of Pressured Planet Raidsoth include Zombie World or a Cold Zone, or you could even just play a second Necrovalley. But a second field spell is absolutely, I think, necessary, and I think 3 pot cards are completely necessary as well. Pot of Prosperity can be replaced with a budget option, Pot of Extravagance, as long as you don't care about banishing your Zeus as much. But Pot of Extravagance, completely fine. This deck can play without an extra deck. But I would say these 28 cards are core cards for the deck, and the other 9 can be replaced with whatever 9 defensive cards you want them to be. Hand traps, you could play Forbidden Droplet, Ash Blossom, Imperm. You could even play 2 Conclaves and a Miracle, rounded out to 3 each. The choice is yours. Let's look at it like this. Here we have a list of 40 cards. If you need help identifying cards, feel free to ask. If we take away the non-engine, we're left with 30 core cards. This is an easy way to identify which cards decide in and out for games 2 and 3. I think it's best to play a second field spell, so you can see that as the 31st core slot. But on the other hand, some players find success risking it with 1 field spell. In addition to these 9 slots for siding, you could also side out 1 Crystal Miracle going second. Necrovalley could also be replaced with another potent field spell depending on the matchup. Needless to say, siding is only available in a best of 3 format, but some community Master Duel tournaments run best of 3 and Top Cut, so side decking is always a nice skill to have. I'm going to talk more about the core cards of the deck and break them down. First of all, 9 total copies of Crystal Beast Sapphire Pegasus. Since Crystal Bond is searchable, you could honestly cut it to 1 and bump Foolish Burial Goods up to 3 if you so choose. But 2 and 2 is completely fine as well, especially since we don't have a secondary application for goods, and the second bond does come up. Having 7 Sapphire Pegasus is the perfect amount for not committing too many diminishing returns that you're going to run into. Now, the count of 8 Crystal Beasts is perfect for this deck, since you're going to use Bond to search out 2 Crystal Beasts, add 1 to hand and crystallize 1 from the deck. And you're going to use Sapphire Pegasus to crystallize 1 from the deck, Zenith to special summon 1 from the deck, Salvation to search 1, Conclave special 1 from deck, and Golden Rule to crystallize 2 from the deck. That's why 8 is perfect. 3 Pegasus, 3 Zenith, 1 Eagle, 1 Ruby. Now the Eagle is just a Walmart Sapphire Pegasus. If I could play a 4th, I 100% would. Cool, Eagle, why can't you be more like your brother? 2 Awakening is ideal, because the first one you're going to use for either Heart or to dump Salvation, and the second one you're going to use to either dump Salvation or go for the OTK. Whichever way you go, 2 is the way to go. You're going to use 1 at the beginning and 1 at the middle to end of the duel. Next, only 1 Golden Rule, as is the searchable OTK tool. Think of it like Sprite Gamma Burst. Next, 3 Rainbow Bridge. I don't think I need to explain how a non-once per turn searcher isn't good. And next we have Rainbow Bridge of the Heart. This is the most important card of the deck. It does everything. It gives us an extra normal summon to be able to make our rank 4s. It searches another crystal card, which is a big thing because then it accesses the rest of everything else. And it's spot removal on top of everything else, being able to bounce an opponent's card like an opposing goes-in match is really impactful. Even though it's called Conclave Control, it really is all about this card. Next, 1 Necrovalley, Let the Dead Rest, gives us a necessary foothold as a rogue deck in the meta. 2 Crystal Miracle and 1 Crystal Conclave is all you really need. Miracle with the graveyard effect being super impactful in the grind game, and both of these not being a hard once per turn either, which is really awesome. Now Conclave you could bump up to 2 for Master Duel, which I suggest since it's a best of 1 format, but you only really need 1 in the TCG since it's a best of 3. Finally, let's talk about the two garnets, Rainbow Dragon and Rainbow Bridge's Salvation. These cards are the worst cards to draw in your deck, but there are upsides. Rainbow Dragon, for example, if you draw it, you immediately enable Awakening. So if you draw these two in combination, you can in draw phase activate Awakening, search for Rainbow Bridge of the Heart, and dodge Troll and Lockbird, which is one of the biggest silver bullets against this deck. Salvation, on the other hand, you do have tools in the extra deck to be able to send it to the graveyard. Dugar's is my favorite one. Being able to draw 2 cards and then send Salvation to the graveyard, which gets you 2 more cards, is just insane value. But I'd only use this going first. Going second, I'll set this card and pop it with Tornado Dragon. I'll make a Zeus and wipe the field, sending the Salvation to the graveyard where I could use its effect. Going first, if I'm under Pot of Prosperity, I'll also use Tornado Dragon to pop it, since I can't draw cards with Dugar's if I'm under Prosperity's effect. Even though these are the garnets, we do have a lot of ways to be able to take advantage of drawing them. Plus, if you draw this Rainbow Dragon, that means you're playing with triple Zenith, which is very potent. Now we're nearing the end of this guide. I thank you for sticking along with me. Let's do some Q&A. I asked you guys on Twitter some questions that you'd like to see answered in this video, so let's go ahead and answer some of them. So, what if I already have Sapphire Pegasus in my hand? What do I use the other search card for? Well, first things first, I'll go ahead and search for another Sapphire Pegasus. But if I don't have access to Rainbow Bridge of the Heart for a second normal summon, and I really want to battle phase Zenith effect, then I will just go ahead and search a second Zenith. But if I already have 2 Pegasus, then I'll 100% search for a Zenith as the third search target. If I open these 3 and another searcher for Crystal Beast, then we call that a bad hand. Now, what do you want to crystallize when you're going for Sapphire Pegasus effect? Well, we want to go grave, deck, hand. We want to get the most valuable ones out of the graveyard first, and then once the graveyard is empty, of course we want to get the ones from the deck next. But it's whatever you need in the moment. Either you're going to go for a Pegasus to go for the grind game, or do Zenith for a lethal push the next game. So if I have Pegasus in the graveyard here, but I do want to go for a lethal push, I'll go ahead and crystallize that Zenith, whatever you need in that moment. Now things do get tricky when you have Necrovalley up. When you Zenith effect, instead of specialing another Pegasus, we want to actually special summon a Cobalt Eagle and let that go to the graveyard. Basically, whatever is the most valuable, that's what you want to keep in rotation. That's why you'll want to keep the names in the deck, so that you can resolve all the Golden Rule, Salvation, the cards that want to special summon or add cards from the deck. This is a good time to talk about why even play Cobalt Eagle. Well, it's a level 4, it's a win to help with Chidori, so if you want to make Chidori under Necrovalley, you don't have to feel bad about overlaying 2 Pegasuses and letting them go to the graveyard permanently, and instead you could just let Walmart Sapphire Pegasus go to the graveyard. But Cobalt Eagle has the really niche effect of being able to stack Crystal Beast back to your deck, so you can resolve things like a Salvation to search it back out, things like that. But Topaz Tiger could also be used instead of Crystal Beast Cobalt Eagle. Plus, it is a known fighter. As far as zones I play around Infinite and Permanence first, then Cerberus second by putting my Buguska in the extra monster zone, then Geonator Transverser, then I play around Mech Knights. I treat the extra monster zone as an extra zone to unclog my main monster zones. So, Henry asks, what's the optimal starting hand? What should I look forward to bounce with Conclave, and what do I do if I draw Rainbow Dragon instead of searching it with Zenith? Optimal starting hand is something that gets you on Necrovalley, plus Buguska, plus Heart, plus Miracle, plus Conclave. This is going to get everything going. When bouncing with Conclave, bouncing extra deck cards is going to prove to be the most valuable, because they just go right back into the extra deck. Mirror Jade specifically is really great to be able to bounce to the extra deck, since it doesn't trigger the floating effect that destroys all other cards on the field, or all other monsters. Cards like Mirror Jade or DPE are really important to bounce back to the extra deck, so that they don't trigger their destruction effect. If you're interested in picking up this deck for yourself, you can buy the entire core for just about $40 thanks to 3 Crystal Beast structure decks that you can purchase, plus some cards that don't come in the structure deck: Rainbow Bridge of Salvation, Golden Rule, Necrovalley, and Pot of Extravagance. plus some cards to throw in the extra deck so that you can begin your crystal conquest. Thank you for watching this video. It took a lot of time to make, so I would appreciate it if you shared it with a crystal-based enjoyer. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.